Hello everyone. Good day. I don't have paint on my hands today, but I wanted to share with you about some of the things that I've been talking about when I'm talking about the progression of painting and where I've come from with my paintings. And so I thought I would do an actual real clear kind of visual for you so that you would know exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about how where I've come from with my paintings, and how, like I've said, that I came from zero creativity to where I am now, which is my life is completely brimming with creativity in every moment with every single thing that I do. And I wanted to share with you a little bit of the progression of my paintings in particular. And I'll share with you, I began with painting on wood before I ever started working with glass. So we had a sawmill, my ex and we had lots of wood around. And I bought him a paint set because he was the artist in the house. And he didn't use them. And so he was the artist in the house, by the way, too, because he could draw realistically, and I couldn't. And I felt like that's doomed me forever to never, ever get to be anything creative. And I was a hard worker. That's what I was. But anyway, so this is on a piece of Douglas fir wood. And this was one of the first paintings that I ever made. And it's just this simple folk art house. So right at the very beginning, I painted what I liked, which was folk art, but it's very simplistic, very much like a child would do, totally flat profile and everything. And I'm so glad, I gave this to my mom, and she still had it, and I was able to get it back from her when she had to move out of her home. So I love having this as the reference to where I've come from. And then the other one is the rooster stool, which you've seen lots of times, and I've shown you, and I'm not sure where I put it anymore. Oh yeah, here it is. And so then I was doing woodworking, and I was making wooden objects, right? So then I was learning to work with my hands basically for the first time. And then it was in my 30s or something then, because when I was a younger person and teenager and stuff, I was not creative at all, and I pushed away any kind of, especially creativity that was involving things that women did, because I was so much feminist and everything, and which is awesome, but I didn't understand it. I was so much younger then. But anyways, the things that my mom could have taught me, I wasn't interested in learning. And I also didn't feel like I had any, there was nothing, I just didn't have any skill in that way. So then I carried on with this painting like that on wood, and I made all kinds of things. And this is where I started learning how to do toll painting. And I did more painting that's, more delicate, more, it seemed better to me than these funny little other things that I was painting, because number one, they weren't my own designs, so I was following patterns and learning how. And basically, I did tons of this, I'm telling you, tons and tons. And I actually worked my way out of my pharmacy job by doing this, because I got good enough at making this that I could start to go part-time at my regular job. And I made so many wooden things, tiny little Christmas ornaments and everything. And so that was kind of the next level. And then I went into glass, and I don't have the glass. I'm not going to show you glass here because I'm not bringing out glass, but for a while, the folk art painting and my early stained glass, they kind of overlapped. And then I pretty much quit with all the painting. And I went fully into glass, and I was totally into glass for a good decade. It became my career, totally unexpectedly. I didn't go into it thinking I'm going to make this my full-time job. I had no idea, because I believed I wasn't creative still, right? I didn't believe I had anything special to add into the creative realms. So, but once there was like this good feedback, I was just like so fully in, and I worked and worked and worked because I could not hardly believe my good fortune that I could make things with my hands, and other people would want them and they would actually give me money for it. It was just, oh my God. And then after about a decade of full-on glass, I wanted to start painting again. So I needed something different, right? So I started with paint again. And these were my first paintings. Again, they're on wood. It's on wood. And I started playing with mixed media because I started to see it around and I liked it and I liked the look of it. And so I learned about photo transfers and scribbling and scratching, and it felt so satisfying. That's a picture of my mom. So my work has always involved, it's always involved kind of my own personal narrative, my own personal story that I bring, even with my glass, but it's not as obvious all the time in my glass as with my paintings. So that was one of my first paintings. It's actually a diptych. There's another piece that goes with it. And then here's another one along those same lines, big heavy plywood. And that's my mom. And she's standing on a buffalo. So the buffalo imagery came in for me really early on when I started painting. It was just the natural thing that wanted to be expressed. And then up here it says, she cooks and cleans and dreams of buffalo. She cooks and cleans and dreams of buffalo. So I was thinking of my mom and my grandma and all the prairie settlers. That's my family, basically. And so this has all kinds of, has some metal stuck on it. And so then I was so excited, and I was getting really positive feedback from some key people in my life, which was super awesome. And then at the same time I started doing, I was expressing this is mixed media again, and I was really expressing some of my own. I was working out some of my own stuff here, and I wanted to use black on everything. I wanted to use pink on everything. And it's girls are precious and worthy, and it was really about I'm precious and worthy. So, because that little silhouette is, I made that stencil from a picture of me when I was a little kid. And so I made lots of stuff like this. Scratching in and just really enjoying that, being able to create in that way. So I have a few others like this, but I'm not going to show them all. That's a piece of the progression. And then I kind of went from there. I was starting to play around with, back to that folk art of things that don't really look like a realistic version, obviously, but it's a recognizable shape. And on here there's lots of layers. And I believe that this chicken, it started out in my sketchbook. You can see that was when I first started journaling too. That's around 10, 11 years ago. And so you can see the layers, and that's where I started really enjoying. I liked in the earlier stuff, I loved scratching and scribbling and blending, and then I started really liking layering. And then a year or two or something, I don't know, it's all kind of some of them blended, but then the buffalo, and around that same time I was gifted a huge buffalo skull from my dad that he found on the prairies many, many years ago. And so it's in my studio, and it became this thing that just started showing up everywhere. And on here you can kind of see there's the shoulders of a little girl there. And this is me just letting myself have my natural expression. I'm not catering to a market or trying to make something that's nice for someone else. I was really clear about that when I started painting, because I'd been working with glass for a decade, and I had been, I had the beautiful gift of being successful. So then I was always creating what I really wanted, but I was also creating a little bit more of the things that were for sure popular, that the galleries wanted, another flower bouquet or something. And so I would do that. I mean, the initial impulse of making that flower bouquet was always straight from me, but to repeat it was came from outside of me. The requests were repeats. And so when I started painting, it was really clear that I wasn't going to be repeating anything for anyone. It was all going to be very much like, this is what I want to make, and I'm going to make it however I want to make it. And this one is on a thinner piece of board. It had a frame on it, but so also the horse was an image that came in really early on for me in terms of what do I want to paint, and it stayed steady. If you notice, like some of my earliest stuff had a buffalo or like that rooster and the cow, and so that same stuff, once I started to paint like this, then my own personal imagery and my own narrative of my story started coming through. Like it came through really clear, and I just continued to hone it, and I was getting the kind of feedback that really helped me to dig into that and explore it more deeply. No matter what the outside response was, that was not the point. And I never shared anything on Facebook or Instagram. There wasn't even Instagram when I first started painting. And on Facebook, I didn't share my paintings in the beginning. It was a process for me. And I think that incubation time, like with my glass too, that early incubation time was so important. So here's another one. This feels total prairie to me. There's like these kind of quilts. There's the buffalo. And then I started liking to add chunks. And then around this time, my bigger folk arts wooden sculptures came in, like my big horse and the dog and a buffalo, and a couple of years ago the great big camels that are way bigger than me. You can see in some of my feeds and stuff. So I still love this. I've kept it. A lot of my paintings have sold, even though that wasn't my main objective when I started painting. But I think when we're really painting from our source, like it may not be popular acclaim, but there will be a niche where people get it. There's something that people just get about it. And with this one, because it has this little wood, I use it as a little altar, and I put a flower bouquet on here and stuff like that, a little glass flower bouquet. So there's that. And then I have, this is one that was from a piece of plywood that I found out and about. I've left this raw edge on this side. I really like that. This is pretty new. I think maybe I painted this last summer. This deer was one that I painted kind of like in the middle of the night. I came to my studio a few years ago, and it was dark in the middle of the night, and I just turned on one tiny light, and I thought, I wonder if I can make a deer that actually looks kind of like a deer. There's some kind of realism, not total folk art. And so that's when this painting came. And so I did a bunch more, not like this deer, but in this series there was different ones, and those are all sold. This one, obviously, I still have. And this horse I think I probably painted this a couple years ago. So it's like it's folk art, but it's also I don't even know what you call it, but the words that I use is like I want it to be like innocent and sophisticated. So you can tell that a kid didn't do it, but there's that flavor, and that's what I'm naturally attracted to when I see other people's art too. Like I love all kinds of art, but I still really like this painting. Some of my favorite paintings of mine are actually hanging in my own house, so I didn't bring them over to show today. And here's another one with the deer. And obviously I like making drips. This one at first, when I first made it, I was like, it's kind of garish, like the coloring. I wasn't all subtle with the colors, or not that I usually am, but like I know how to mix colors. I understand about value and color. But the more that I have this around, I'm thinking it actually works pretty good. So then there's that, and then this is some of my newest stuff. However, it's painted on a canvas that I've had for a long time. I don't paint on canvas usually because you've probably heard me say it just doesn't have enough oomph for me. I like something that's got a lot of resistance. So I usually paint on wood. But I did a bunch of collaging on here. This has probably had 2 or 3 different paintings on it. And this was the one that finally arrived and feels like, okay, that's the one that's going to stay. And again, there's like, to me, this is prairie. This is ravens, magpies, crows in kind of prairie dresses. That's what this feels like to me. And I have a whole big series of work right now that's based on that I'm going to create an art show in the forest here this summer, I think, with these pieces. So I want to make a big, I'd like to make a big, tall, mixed media sculpture, maybe a glass one too, but... And then all along the way, I was like painting on every kind of substrate. So these are plasma cut metal. A couple years ago, I got an idea, I want to make a whole bunch of animal masks, and so I did that. All of the creative whims that I felt along the way, I have let myself indulge in. I can't bring the camel over because it's a huge sculpture, but it's in the other room. This is fairly recent. This one is a painting that I made after we had come in from boating in December, and we had seen, or maybe it was early in the spring, anyways, it doesn't matter. We'd seen a mom orca and her baby, and so as soon as I got home, I just did that right away, painted that to get, just so I could remember what it felt like in me and get my first expression of that onto a panel. And then this is another one that's kind of based on that same imagery of the crow. And this has, it's quite big, it's 3 feet by 4 feet. I can't really see how I can get it up to you, but anyways, I'll just kind of go like that. Hopefully you can see something. It's big and heavy, it's on wood. So basically, kind of like what I really want to be able to share with you is that I've done, and I continue to do, like all shapes and sizes. And once I worked my way up to the really big ones, like now this is like the full size sheet of plywood, this painting. And now I can go the full range. These are little tiny ones. And I follow a theme, and I don't feel like I need to keep changing it up or whatever. Like I'm letting myself really paint exactly what I want to paint in any given time. And it all of it has the flavor of me. And so in Paint Your Wild Spirit, which is my course that's coming up, enrollment is open right now. Enrollment closes Wednesday night. I want to be able to share how I do what I do, how I make these paintings, how every single one of these paintings is made. Actually, I did this one pretty much all on the lives I've done recently. You can see the whole progression of how that one got painted, and in my other lives you can see how this guy came from needing a little bit of repairs to this. And yeah, so in my course I want to be able to share all the tools and techniques I've learned, not only, yes, about how to make the painting and all the actual techniques like photo transfers and gel mediums and what kind of paint and how to get layers and how to make sure it all sticks and even though my work feels a little bit more raw, it's all super well finished. And I sell my paintings, like this big painting, I sell them all the time. Like I ship these paintings out. So they're solid, right? But they're still folky and so imperfect. And that's the only way that it can be for me. Otherwise, it feels like a constricting experience, and I'm not having a good time. And I've done that enough in my life. I don't want to do that anymore, and I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm letting myself have the most creative freedom that's available to me, and I'm letting myself have my vast range of expression. And I'm not worrying about what other people think about it. And I used to, and it was like, I had to learn all kinds of tools for like having compassion for myself, number one. How to work with the inner critic, because the inner critic's there. It's always there. I still have the inner critic. It's not like it's gone. It's just I know how to work with my inner critics. And it's not by ignoring them or being mean to them or something. There's different ways, and I know them, and that's what I do in my life now. So I just feel so much better and so much happier in my creative practice than I ever have. So it gets to be like, I used to paint all the time trying to get better, and that wasn't going to be the way for me to get better. Yeah, you have to put in the hours and the time to get familiar with techniques and how to use things and all that. But what I really needed to do was give myself a break and give myself permission to really play. I used to think, oh, I'm playing, but I wasn't. It was like kind of messy, and it felt free and everything, but I didn't feel free. The work had that feeling, but I was still caught up inside in something that was not conducive to super free-flowing creativity. And you know when you're in that creative zone where things just flow, and then sometimes you can just get stopped instantly by this voice from somewhere, and that just sucks. And so I now know the ways around that. I know the ways around it. Like, so I'm letting myself create whatever I wanted. So when I first started exploring this imagery, it was just on a small piece of paper, and I just loved it. And I loved it so much that I just put it on everything, probably for the next month or more, or 2 months or 3 months or something. So it just went on every single thing that I painted. My raven women were on there, and and I've sold quite a few of those pieces already, and I haven't even actually really been trying. So all of this is to say that in Paint Your Wild Spirit, I'm going to show you how to go take you from the beginning to the end of a painting, and what's that journey, and how did I get from there to there. And this is one of the examples of after a first layer's been applied. And I'm going to, throughout the course, I'm going to do many paintings that will show participants exactly what happened at every stage. There's not going to be hidden stages or anything. And then this one's got kind of like a first layer on the other side, because I love scribbling, and now I let myself scribble, and I love gluing paper, and now I let myself have that whole experience of gluing all the paper, even if it all gets covered up. It doesn't matter. So, yeah. And we always have the time objections. I don't have enough time, or I want to be outside, or in the spring, and I don't have enough time to be creative, or I don't have the space, and all those things can be worked with. And what I've found for myself is that when I let myself have some playtime with my paints and stuff, my whole life expands, so I don't feel so crunched anywhere. But it feels like backwards, but is what happens when I actually give myself permission to paint and explore in whatever way I want. My whole life expands, and I'm a happier person, and I don't feel so tight and kind of constricted and obligated, and so I've just learned so much, and I'm ready to share. I've been being asked to teach. People have been asking me to teach for a long time, 10, 15 years, and I'm finally ready. I'm finally really ready to share what I know. And so I want to invite people to come in to Paint Your Wild Spirit painting course. It's like 4 modules packed full of techniques and everything that you need to make a painting, plus all the stuff that goes along with being creative, all the inner work. So it's all joined, and I'm going to show you all the things that I know to live a creative life and feel happy and be in that free-flowing state. And and there's not even any risk, because you get like a 10-day full refund if you get in there and you just it's not for me. That's okay. You don't have to stay. So anyway, I'm going to sign off. I've showed you the beginnings, the super simple beginnings that look like a little child, maybe. And I've shown you the middle section, and I've shown you, where I'm at now. And it's almost like my life is like this. When I painted this, I was really just exploring the surface of my life. I wasn't really digging in. And now I have so many layers in my life, and I'm exploring them all. And I really want to invite other people to come in and explore too, so that you too can feel more empowered creatively and more connected to your own free-flowing creativity, and so that you can have a really good time painting, so it doesn't feel like this burden or this place where you're just never going to quite get it. It's pretty good, but or whatever. And so you can be total beginner, or you can have tons of experience. Either way, this process that we will go through is going to be enlivening to your spirit, and you'll dig deeper into what is your narrative and your own personal story that you want to share. And so that's what I'm going to do. So thank you for joining, and you can see the link in my bio for Paint Your Wild Spirit. It's open for enrollment right now until Wednesday, May 19th, midnight Pacific time. And then the course is wide open. First module is open on Friday morning, so we go right in. We're not going to spend tons of time talking like right now. We're going to be we're going to be painting. So come on and join me. I would love, love, love for you to join me.